My child, do not curse the pit. It was dark. It was lonely. It was unfair. It was the place where your voice echoed back to you, and no one seemed to answer. But hear me clearly, the pit was not your grave. They threw Joseph into a pit because they hated what I had placed upon his life. They stripped him of his robe. They pushed him down into the dust. They walked away as though his dream had finally been silenced. And, from the outside, it looked like the story was over. But the pit could not cancel what I had spoken. The robe could be torn, but the dream was still alive. And maybe this message found you because there is a place in your memory that still feels like a pit. A season where someone betrayed you. A moment when people who should have protected you became the very hands that wounded you. A place where you asked, Lord, if you are with me, why did you allow this? My child, I will not ask you to pretend it did not hurt. I will not ask you to call betrayal good. I will not ask you to smile over a wound that still aches in the quiet hours of the night. But I am asking you to look again, because what they meant to bury, I was still able to carry. What they tried to silence, I was still able to preserve. What they thought they had ended, I was still guiding toward a purpose they could not see. The pit had walls, but it did not have the final word. The hands that pushed Joseph down were not stronger than the God who was preparing to lift him up. And the same is true for you. There are seasons in your life that you have called rejection, but heaven may call separation. There are closed doors you have called punishment, but I may have used them as protection. There are relationships you beg me to restore, but I saw what staying there would do to your soul. Do not curse the pit too quickly. Sometimes the place that wounded you became the place where I began to rescue you from something worse. Joseph did not choose the pit. He did not climb into it by rebellion. He did not deserve the betrayal of his brothers. Genesis 37 shows us the pain. Clearly, his own brothers saw him from a distance, planned against him, stripped him of his robe, and threw him into an empty pit. An empty pit. No water, no comfort, no explanation. There are few pains deeper than being thrown into emptiness by people who know your name. And some of you understand that. You were not wounded by strangers only. You were wounded by people who knew your story. People who knew what you carried. People who had sat near you, eaten with you, laughed with you, maybe even prayed with you. And then, when jealousy rose, when misunderstanding grew, when your presence became uncomfortable to them, they did not protect you. They pushed you down. That is why the pit hurts so much. It is not only the depth, it is the betrayal connected to it. The pit has a sound, and its sound is silence. Joseph was down there, and the Bible does not show us a thunderous voice from heaven in that moment. It does not say angels filled the pit with light. It does not say a hand immediately reached down and lifted him out. There was silence. And silence can become dangerous when pain starts preaching to your heart. Pain says, God has forgotten you. Pain says, you were foolish to believe. Pain says, the dream was only imagination. Pain says, if God were with you, you would not be here. But my child, pain is a loud preacher, and not every sermon it gives is true. My silence is not the same as my absence. There were moments when Joseph could not see the next chapter, but I was not finished writing. There were moments when he had no robe, no family near him, no familiar road under his feet, but he still had my eye upon him. And later, In Genesis 39, Scripture says that the Lord was with Joseph. That truth matters. The Bible does not say Joseph was always comfortable. It says I was with him. Do not measure my presence only by comfort. Do not measure my faithfulness only by how quickly the pain ends. Do not assume I have left because the room is quiet. The answer is delayed. Or the people who harmed you seem to walk away untouched. I was with Joseph when no one came back to apologize. I was with Joseph when his robe was gone. I was with Joseph when the dust of the pit clung to his skin. And I was with you when you cried, and no one knew how deep the wound went. My child, I saw the moment you stopped explaining because no one seemed to understand. I saw the night you replayed the conversation again and again, wondering what you could have done differently. I saw when you tried to be strong, but inside you were asking whether I had turned my face away. I did not turn away. The pit was real, but it was not ultimate. The betrayal was real, but it was not sovereign. The wound was real, but it was not your identity. Joseph's brothers took his robe, but they did not take his calling. They could touch the fabric, but they could not reach the word I had placed over his life. They could stain what Jacob recognized, but they could not stain what heaven remembered. This is where many of my children get trapped. They confuse the robe with the dream. The robe was visible. The dream was hidden. The robe could be handled by human hands. The dream was held in the counsel of God. The robe could be torn, dipped, displayed, and used to tell a false story. But the dream was still moving, even when Joseph looked like he had lost everything. Do you see it? People may damage what covers you, but they cannot erase what I planted within you. They may misunderstand you. They may misrepresent you. They may take one torn piece of your story and hold it up as if it explains all of you. They may say, "Look, this is proof." They may decide who you are based on the worst season you survived, but I do not define you by the torn robe. I know the whole story. I know what happened before the wound. I know what happened inside the wound. I know what I am forming after the wound. So do not wear the identity they tried to place on you. You are not the pit. You are not the betrayal. You are not the false report. You are not the robe they tore. You are still seen by me. And what I have spoken over your life is not so fragile that human cruelty can destroy it. But my child, there is another wound hidden inside this story. It is the wound of being misread. Joseph was not only thrown into a pit, his story was rewritten by the people who threw him there. His brothers took the robe, dipped it in blood, and brought it to their father. They did not simply injure Joseph. They created a false narrative around his disappearance. And there are people listening right now who know exactly what that feels like. You were not only hurt, you were misrepresented afterward. Someone took a torn piece of your life and used it as evidence against you. Someone told the story in a way that made them look innocent and made you look unstable. Proud, difficult, ungrateful, or lost. Someone held up the robe, but hid the hands that tore it, and you have been tempted to spend your whole life trying to make everyone understand. But listen to me. Do not let the false story become your prison. There is a time to speak truth. There is a time to seek justice. There is a time to set the record straight, when wisdom opens the door. But there is also a place where your soul must stop bowing before the court of human opinion. Jacob saw the robe and believed Joseph was dead, but I knew Joseph was alive. Earth believed the robe. Heaven remembered the dream. My child, I know the parts of your story that were never told correctly. I know the motives that were assigned to you falsely. I know the tears that were dismissed. I know the prayers you prayed when no one else believed you were trying to do what was right. You do not have to destroy yourself trying to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Bring the torn robe to me. Bring me the accusation. Bring me the humiliation. Bring me the ache of being judged by people who never asked what truly happened. Bring me the anger that rises when you imagine them walking freely while you are left to heal from the cost of their choices. I am not afraid of your honesty, but I will not let bitterness become the new robe you wear. That is why I say to you, do not curse the pit too early. This does not mean you bless betrayal. This does not mean you call evil good. This does not mean you excuse what harmed you or return to unsafe hands in the name of forgiveness. No, forgiveness is not denial. Forgiveness is not pretending the pit was comfortable. Forgiveness is not handing your robe back to the people who tore it and asking them to define you again. Forgiveness is releasing the right to become what wounded you. Forgiveness is placing judgment back into my hands. Forgiveness is refusing to let the pit keep speaking louder than my voice. Joseph's brothers meant harm. Genesis 5:20 does not erase that truth. Joseph said plainly that they meant evil against him. But he also saw that I was able to use what they meant for harm for the saving of many lives. That is not a small truth. That is holy ground. It means human evil is real. But it is not greater than divine sovereignty. It means betrayal can wound you deeply, but it cannot dethrone me. It means the pit may interrupt your plans, but it cannot overthrow my purpose. The danger is that many of my children come out of the pit physically, but they keep living there inwardly. They leave the environment, but keep the echo. They escape the hands, but keep rehearsing the hurt. They walk away from the place, but build a hidden altar to the pain, visiting it every day, feeding it with memory, defending it with anger, and calling it protection. My child, I understand why you became guarded. I understand why you stopped trusting quickly. I understand why you listen for betrayal in voices that sound kind. Pain trained you to survive. But survival is not the same as healing. The pit may have taught you caution, but I want to teach you peace. The pit may have taught you to watch every hand, but I want to restore your ability to trust me. The pit may have taught you that people can change suddenly, but I want to anchor you in the truth that I do not change. Do not let what happened to you become the Lord over you. I am Lord, not the pit, not the betrayal, not the delay, not the silence, not the torn robe. Now look closely at Joseph's road. When he was lifted out of the pit, he did not return home. That is the part many people do not want to hear. He came out of the pit, but his next step was not comfort. His next step was Egypt. This can confuse the heart. You prayed, Lord, get me out. And I did. But then the road still felt hard. You prayed, Lord, rescue me. And I began, but rescue did not look like returning to the exact place you lost everything. Joseph may have wanted to go home. He may have wanted his father's embrace. He may have wanted to expose the lie, confront his brothers, and get his robe back. But the road opened toward a foreign land. My child, sometimes the way out does not look like restoration at first. Sometimes the way out feels like more uncertainty. Sometimes I deliver you from one place, and then lead you into a season where you must learn me in a deeper way. Not because I am cruel, not because I enjoy your confusion, but because there are things I must form in you that comfort alone could never produce. The pit was not Joseph's only classroom. Egypt became a classroom. Potiphar's house became a classroom. The prison became a classroom. Delay became a classroom. Being forgotten by the cupbearer became a classroom. And through it all, I was not merely preserving Joseph's gift. I was shaping Joseph's heart. Because a gift can take a person into rooms that character cannot sustain. A dream can open desire, but wisdom must be formed to carry responsibility. Joseph had dreamed of sheaves bowing and stars bowing, but he still had to learn humility, service, stewardship, restraint, patience, and mercy. My child, I am not only protecting your dream from others, I am also protecting you from becoming unprepared for the weight of it. You want the door to open quickly. I understand. You want the apology now. You want the restoration now. You want the explanation now. You want to see why it had to happen this way. But there are some answers that can only be understood after endurance has done its work. James 1 teaches that the testing of faith produces steadfastness. And steadfastness must have its full effect. That does not mean suffering is easy. It means suffering placed in my hands is not wasted. So do not despise the hidden years. Do not despise the small assignment. Do not despise the season where you are serving while still healing. Do not despise the place where no one claps. No one says. No one recognizes the dream. And no one knows what it cost you to remain faithful. Oh, I see. I saw Joseph in the pit. I saw Joseph in Potiphar's house. I saw Joseph in the prison. And I see you in this season too. And here is the part you must not miss. The presence of God did not always remove Joseph from the difficult place. Sometimes the presence of God gave Joseph favor inside the difficult place. Genesis 39 says the Lord was with Joseph, and he became successful in the house of his Egyptian master. But notice this carefully. Joseph was still enslaved when the Lord was with him. This is not the kind of sentence the flesh likes to hear. The flesh wants to say, if God is with me, why am I still here? But faith learns to say, if God is with me, then even here, I am not abandoned. My child, my presence is not proven only by open doors. Sometimes my presence is proven by the fact that you did not lose your mind in the closed room. Sometimes my presence is proven by the fact that your heart is still tender after people gave you reasons to become cruel. Sometimes my presence is proven by the quiet strength that keeps you faithful when no one is watching. Joseph was not in the palace yet. He was in a place he did not choose, serving people he never planned to serve, speaking a language that was not his childhood language, living far from the father who loved him, far from the land that knew him, far from the robe that once marked him. But I was with him, and because I was with him, the place that looked like exile became a place of preparation. Do not misunderstand preparation. Preparation is not always beautiful. While it is happening, sometimes it feels like being hidden. Sometimes it feels like being overlooked. Sometimes it feels like being reduced to work that seems beneath the dream you once carried. Joseph had dreamed of ruling, but first he had to learn how to serve. Joseph had dreamed of authority, but first he had to learn stewardship in another man's house. Joseph had dreamed of greatness, but first he had to learn faithfulness when greatness was nowhere in sight. This is where many people quit. They love the dream, but they resent the discipline. They love the promise, but they despise the process. They love the vision of the palace, but they curse every classroom that prepares them to stand there without being destroyed by pride. My child, do not despise the hidden place. The pit was painful, but Potiphar's house was shaping something in Joseph. It was teaching him how to manage what was not his. It was teaching him diligence. It was teaching him restraint. It was teaching him how to remain excellent without needing applause. And then came another wound. Joseph did what was right, and still suffered for it. Potiphar's wife falsely accused him. Joseph resisted sin, fled temptation, kept integrity, and yet he was thrown into prison. There is a special kind of weariness that enters the heart when you suffer, not because you did wrong, but because you did right. Some of you know that pain. You told the truth, and it cost you. You walked away from sin, and you were mocked. You refused to compromise, and you lost an opportunity. You kept your heart clean, but someone else's lie seemed louder than your obedience. And you asked, "Lord, what is the point of doing right if I still end up in chains? Hear me, my child. Your obedience is not wasted because people misunderstand it. Your purity is not wasted because the outcome was painful. Your integrity is not wasted because the door closed afterward. Joseph's prison was not proof that righteousness had failed. It was proof that the story was not finished. Genesis 39 says the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him steadfast love. That matters deeply. I was with him not only when he prospered in Potiphar's house, but also when he sat behind bars because of a lie. I am not only with you when people celebrate you, I am with you when people accuse you. I am with you when you are unseen. I am with you when you are misunderstood. I am with you when the right choice leads to a harder road. But you must guard your heart in the prison, because the prison tests what the pit exposed. The pit exposes your wound. The prison tests your worship. The pit asks, "Will you still believe when you are betrayed?" The prison asks, "Will you still serve when you are forgotten?" Joseph could have become bitter in prison. He could have said, "I am done helping anyone." I interpreted no one's pain. Because no one cared about mine, I will not use my gift anymore. Because my gift has only brought me trouble. But Joseph continued to serve. He noticed the sadness of others. He interpreted dreams. He used the gift I gave him, not from a throne, but from a prison. My child, this is a holy mystery. Sometimes the gift you thought was buried begins to breathe again in the place you least expected. Do not wait until every chain falls off to be faithful. Do not wait until every apology comes to pray. Do not wait until every door opens to obey. Do not wait until everyone understands you to walk with me. The prison may feel like delay, but delay is not always denial. Sometimes delay is the space where I build the weight of your soul, so that when the door opens, you do not step out empty, angry, and unprepared. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him, but the cupbearer forgot him. That sentence carries the ache of many hearts. Forgotten again, after the pit, after the false accusation, after the prison, after serving someone else with compassion. Forgotten again. Some of you are not only tired because life has been hard. You are tired because you have helped people who forgot you when their door opened. You prayed for them, but they did not check on you. You encouraged them, but they disappeared when they were restored. You showed up for them in their prison, but they did not speak your name when they stood near the palace. My child, I saw that too. But remember this, the cupbearer forgot Joseph temporarily. I did not. Human memory is fragile. Divine timing is not. What people forget, I can bring back at the appointed time. The cupbearer's forgetfulness did not cancel Joseph's future. It only proved that Joseph's door would not open by human loyalty alone. It would open by my timing. And when my time came, Pharaoh had a dream no one could interpret. The gift that seemed useless in prison became the key to a palace door. But even then, Joseph did not glorify himself. In Genesis 41, When Pharaoh said he had heard Joseph could interpret dreams, Joseph answered that it was not in him. God would give Pharaoh an answer. Do you see the fruit of the hidden years? The pit did not make Joseph arrogant. The prison did not make Joseph bitter. The delay did not make Joseph forget where the gift came from. The suffering did not destroy his reverence. That is what I am forming in you, my child. Not just a testimony that says, "Look what I survived," but a heart that says, "God was faithful, and the gift was never mine to boast in." When Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he did not stand there as the same young man who had been thrown into the pit. The dream was still alive, but the dreamer had been changed. That is important. My child, many people want the dream restored, but they do not want the heart refined. They want the door opened, but they do not want the pride removed. They want the table prepared, but they do not want the bitterness healed. They want the robe returned, but they do not want the soul cleansed from the need to prove everyone wrong. But I loved Joseph too much to only preserve his dream. I was forming the man who could carry it, because the palace is dangerous for an unhealed heart. Authority is dangerous in the hands of bitterness. Influence is dangerous in the hands of revenge. A platform is dangerous when the soul is still chained to the pit. So I did not merely take Joseph from suffering to success. I took him through a holy formation that taught him dependence, humility, wisdom, restraint, and mercy. This is why you must stop asking only 40. When will God lift me up? Ask also, Lord, who are you making me while I wait? Because there are places you are praying to enter that require a version of you that can only be formed in hiddenness. There are responsibilities you cannot carry if you are still controlled by the people who hurt you. There are blessings that would crush you if your identity still depended on being seen, praised, defended, or vindicated by human voices. My child, I am not delaying you because I have forgotten you. I am deepening you because I love you. Joseph's elevation came suddenly, but his preparation did not. One day he was in prison. Then he was washed, changed, and brought before Pharaoh. Genesis 41 shows that the door opened in a way Joseph could not have forced. No brother opened it. No cupbearer remembered him early enough to boast in loyalty. No human strategy placed him there. I opened the door, and when I open a door, no one needs to tear another person down to walk through it. Joseph did not manipulate his way into the palace. He did not flatter Pharaoh with empty words. He did not pretend the gift came from himself. He pointed upward. He acknowledged God. That is what hidden seasons are meant to do. They are meant to teach you where the gift comes from before the room gets larger. My child, when the door opens, do not forget me. Do not let promotion do what the pit could not do. Do not let comfort make you careless after suffering taught you to pray. Do not let the palace steal the reverence that prison refined. There are people who survived the pit, but lost their soul in the palace. They became proud, harsh, demanding, and drunk on the very influence they once begged me to entrust to them. They forgot the God who kept them in the dark. They forgot the mercy that carried them when they had no power. They forgot that the dream was never given so they could be worshipped, but so that my purpose could serve life. Joseph's dream was not fulfilled merely so people would bow to Joseph. It was fulfilled so many lives would be preserved. That is the difference between ambition and calling. Ambition asks, how can this make me great? Calling asks, Lord, how can this serve your purpose? Ambition wants revenge. Calling seeks redemption. Ambition says, they will see who I am. Calling says, God, make me faithful with what you place in my hands. This is why I warn you, gently, do not turn your healing into a throne of pride. Do not make your testimony a weapon. Do not use your survival to despise those who are still weak. Do not spend your future trying to make your betrayers feel small. Joseph could have done that. When his brothers came to Egypt during the famine, he had power. He had position. He had resources. He had access. The same brothers who once looked down into the pit now stood before him in need. This is the moment where many hearts reveal whether they were truly healed or only promoted. Joseph could have said, "Now you will feel what I felt." He could have built a pit for them. He could have torn their robes. He could have created a false story against them. He could have used his power to replay his pain in reverse. But my child, when I heal a person, I do not simply change their circumstances. I change the way they handle power. Joseph wept. He tested his brothers. Yes, and the story contains wisdom, discernment, and process. Forgiveness did not mean Joseph acted without caution. Reconciliation was not cheap. The wound was real. The history mattered. But Joseph did not let revenge become his God. He saw what they had done. But he also saw my hand above what they had done. In Genesis 45, Joseph told his brothers not to be distressed in the same way, because God had sent him ahead to preserve life. In Genesis 50, he acknowledged that they meant evil, but God meant it for good. Be careful here. My child, this does not mean evil is good. This does not mean betrayal is holy. This does not mean the pit was righteous. It means I am so sovereign that even what evil intends to destroy, I can weave into a purpose evil never imagined. Your betrayers are not saviors. Your pain is not your redeemer. I, alone, am redeemer. But what wounded you is not too broken for me to touch. What scattered you is not too complicated for me to gather. What tried to end you is not beyond my power to transform. This is the mystery of Joseph. The pit was real, but it was not final. The robe was torn, but the dream remained. The road to Egypt was painful, but it became part of preservation. The prison was unjust, but it became the place where the gift waited for the appointed hour. And your life may carry mysteries like this too. A door closed, and you thought it was rejection. A relationship ended, and you thought it was abandonment. A plan collapsed, and you thought it was proof that you missed me. A person lied, and you thought their version would define you forever. But I am telling you now, do not give the pit more authority than it has. The pit was a chapter. It was not the covenant. The betrayal was a wound. It was not your name. The delay was painful. It was not denial. The torn robe was evidence of what happened to you. It was not evidence that I had left you. So now, my child, I ask you to bring the pit into the light, not to relive it without hope, not to reopen the wound so it can rule you again, but to let me speak over the place that has been speaking over you. Name it before me. Was it betrayal? Was it abandonment? Was it the moment someone chose themselves and left you to carry the damage? Was it a season when you obeyed me and still lost something? Was it the torn robe of your reputation? Your confidence? Your innocence? Your peace? Bring it here. Bring the memory of the pit. Bring the sound of the silence. Bring the names you still struggle to release. Bring the questions you were afraid to ask in prayer. I am not offended by the tears of my children. I am near to the brokenhearted. I do not despise a wounded spirit that comes to me honestly. I do not ask you to heal yourself before you approach me. Come with the dust still on your clothes. Come with the ache still in your chest. Come with the question still trembling in your mouth. But do not come to the pit as though it is your home. Come to me. The pit may explain part of your pain, but it must not become the place where your identity lives. You are allowed to grieve. Joseph surely knew grief. You are allowed to tell the truth. What happened was not small. You are allowed to set boundaries. Forgiveness does not require returning to unsafe hands. You are allowed to heal slowly. Some wounds do not close in one night, but you are not allowed to crown the pit as Lord. You are not allowed to let bitterness disciple you. You are not allowed to let betrayal become the voice that interprets every person, every door, every delay, and every silence. My child, I am calling you out, not always out of every circumstance immediately, but out of the inward prison where the wound keeps repeating its verdict. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not what they said. You are not what they did. You are not the version of the story they carried to others. You are not the torn robe, and you do not need the old robe to prove the dream is still alive. Joseph's first robe was taken from him, but later Pharaoh placed new garments on him. Yet even that was not the deepest restoration. The true restoration was not fabric. It was not status. It was not power. The true restoration was that Joseph could stand in the place of authority and still see God. He could look at the brothers who wounded him and say, "In essence, you meant evil, but God was working beyond what you understood." That is not weakness. That is freedom. Freedom is not pretending the pit did not hurt. Freedom is when the pit no longer owns your future. Freedom is when you no longer need revenge to feel alive. Freedom is when you can remember the wound without becoming the wound. Freedom is when you can say, "Lord, I do not understand every road you allowed, but I trust that you were with me in places I thought would destroy me." So pray this with a sincere heart. Lord, I bring you the pit I have cursed. I bring you the people I have struggled to forgive. I bring you the robe that was torn, the name that was damaged, the story that was twisted, and the years I thought were wasted. I do not call evil good. I do not deny what hurt me, but I ask you to heal me so deeply that pain no longer becomes my master. Teach me to forgive without losing wisdom. Teach me to set boundaries without hatred. Teach me to wait without despair. Teach me to walk forward without needing to return to the place that broke me. Show me where you were present when I felt alone. Show me what you protected me from when I only saw loss. Show me how to be faithful in the hidden place, and make my heart clean enough to carry what you are forming in me. My child, read Joseph's story again. Read Genesis 37. Read Genesis 39. Read Genesis 45. Read Genesis 50:20. Do not read it only as ancient history. Read it as a witness that I am able to work in places where human eyes see only ruin. The pit was deep, but I was deeper still. The robe was torn, but my purpose was not torn. The prison was locked, but my timing was not locked. The brothers lied, but heaven did not forget the truth. And when the appointed hour came, Joseph did not have to climb out by force. I opened what no man could open at the right time. So do not curse the pit. Grieve it. Learn from it. Bring it to me. Let me heal what happened there. But do not worship it. Do not return to it. Do not build your name around it. The pit had walls, but it was not your grave. The robe was torn, but the dream was still alive. And I am still the God who sees you in the hidden place. I am still the God who walks with you through the road you did not choose. I am still the God who can take what was meant for harm and weave it into a purpose that brings life. So rise, my child, not in pride, not in revenge, not in denial. Rise in faith. Rise in obedience. Rise with a clean heart. Rise, knowing this what they pushed into the pit, I never stopped holding in my hands. If this message spoke to your heart, take a moment to sit with God before moving on. Leave a comment with the words, "The pit was not my grave," not as a condition for blessing, but as a confession of faith and a reminder to your own soul. And share this with someone who is still trying to understand why the robe was torn. But the dream did not die. The story is not over. God still sees. God still heals. God still restores. And the pit will not have the final word.